One thing that's true when you work at theme parks is if you come in on your day off and other people working recognize you, they're probably going to mess with you some. Here's ways that cast members and employees goofed off with me and how I kind of messed around with them while we were working. One of the wonderful perks of working at a theme park is that on your days off, you generally have unlimited admission to the park. Unless it's a special closed ticket event, you can pretty much come into the parks on your day off whenever you want. And of course, I always took advantage of that. I loved coming into the parks on my days off. Well, of course, working in the parks, it also means that a number of the people working know who you are because you work with them. So at Disney, all the photographers and many of the characters knew each other. At Busch Gardens, everybody over at Rhino Rally knows each other. And then at Silver Dollar City, we knew people all throughout the park. You do kind of form this camaraderie where you enjoy teasing and joking around with people that are on their day off. People would do it to me and I would do it to them if I saw them. It makes for a lot of fun in what sometimes can be a little bit of a tedious, repetitive job where you have opportunities to goof off with other employees in ways that you would not do with a regular guest. For example, if I was visiting Busch Gardens with my family and I wasn't working that day and we decided to go take a ride on Rhino Rally, there was just as good a chance that the driver was going to crack some jokes at my expense or do some things towards me or my family that they may not say necessarily to other guests. Ways to tease and joke around. We enjoyed being able to tease each other. As a driver, if I saw people I knew on the truck, and especially if I knew some other drivers, I might try out a couple jokes that I hadn't tried before because I've got a willing audience who knows how they can work and they can actually give me some feedback. It also means that we might occasionally act like something's wrong that isn't wrong. Oh man, the truck's not working. Oh look, I found the gas pedal. Probably wouldn't necessarily do that with a guest because it might freak them out a little bit. But with somebody who works on the ride, they're not going to be bothered because they're going to understand what's really happening. At Silver Dollar City on the train, we would constantly mess with other people. The train robbers themselves almost have like this little group, and you know people who've robbed the train in the past because they'll come visit and you talk and you share stories. And so you may do some things in that regard that people wouldn't. If I was riding the train on a day off and the robbers see who I am, oftentimes we'll have an interaction and some sort of joke or something that the other guests won't get because they see me, they know what's happening, and we'll exchange. It's a way to say hello to somebody on the train. But it also means that they can do things that they normally wouldn't do. As an example, I had one time I was riding the train by myself, and they got to the point where it was time to find a Ma, and they picked me as Ma, which is something you would never do otherwise. Oh, but hey, we know George. We can go totally razz him. And I think it turned into something instead of Paul sitting next to me. It's like, well, nobody wants to sit next to him or some goofy thing like that. Again, something you wouldn't do with a guest. We would sometimes use employees' family that we knew was on the train and we'd make them the butt of the joke. Again, in a way that we never would have. I had the incredible, awesome privilege of being able to rob with a guy named Devin. And Devin was, oh my goodness, this guy was funny. One of our standard lines was, hey, this is my twin brother. Now, of course, if you look at Devin and I, we don't exactly look a lot alike. But we had one time where Devin's mom came riding the train while he was the conductor. His mom and dad were on the train, and okay, yes, you like to pick people that's obvious that they're not your ma and pa. But in our case, it was really obvious that they weren't our ma and pa. But of course, guess who became Ma? We set her up and oh gosh, we had a lot of fun. And Devin, of course, is conducting. And so he's kind of looking, hey, wait a minute. I know that's not your Ma because it's my Ma. What are you doing? And so we would definitely tease and mess around with each other that way. Any way that you could have a little bit of fun. At Silver Dollar City, it wasn't just limited to on the train. I can remember one time I went over to ride the barn swing, which is this big giant swing, and it's got a lap bar. Well, I'm getting into the ride, and they're coming around to check the restraints. Well, the lady who's supervising that day, Heather, recognized me, starts teasing me a little bit, and then proceeds to do what we say in coaster enthusiast terms, staples me. In other words, she takes the restraint and she shoves it. So I'm like, I can't breathe. And then she starts the ride. So I'm riding the whole ride. Again, joking around, messing around with me. And, you know, I don't know if I ever did get back at Heather for that. But yes, we had a great time teasing and razzing and joking around with each other. So if you were in the park on your day off and people knew you, you kind of had a suspicion that at the very least you were going to say hi, but you're always also kind of on alert if you've got a good sense of humor that, yeah, they may try to pull a joke on you. At Disney, we kind of had the same thing. As photographers, we basically stayed mostly in our circle of photographers. We didn't get to know the ride ops. We got to know a few of the merchandise people because they would work with us selling pictures, but not a whole lot. The one other group of people that we really got to know was the characters and the character attendants, because we would take pictures with them. So we did get to know them a little bit. So when you were in the parks on your day off and you wanted to get pictures, because hey, we're photographers and we're PhotoPass. Of course we used the PhotoPass card and we got pictures and saved them up. We couldn't always afford to pay for them, but we did definitely take them and then use our camera. It meant that the photographers had a chance to play around with the pictures in ways that they might not otherwise. A general rule at Disney is if a cast member is in costume with a name tag on, you're not supposed to take their picture with PhotoPass. But that did not stop us if we saw a group of PhotoPass photographers on their day off from running up and photobombing them in such a way that you couldn't see our name tag. So yes, we definitely did photobomb each other quite a bit. Or we might stand in the background where technically we were okay because we were background and we might do something really goofy or something like that. Yes, we got very good at photobombing each other. Of course, as photographers, we usually would bring in our own cameras as well. And yes, the photographers would have fun with their other cast member cameras. Steven was notorious for taking selfies. Now, this is at a time when we didn't have smartphones, really. They came out towards the end of my time there. You just had the little flip phones, and so those took terrible pictures. But he would take DSLRs and flip them around and get a selfie picture. So I always knew if I saw Steven, I was going to get some sort of really weird photo. Or he may take a picture of something obscure or the ground or have fun. You know, it didn't waste film, so why not? We get some really goofy pictures. The other thing it allowed us to do was we're always looking for creative shots. And if we had another photographer come up on their day off, all right, I can try out a couple things here. You're going to be my experimental guinea pig, and let's see how this works. So it allowed us an opportunity to try some poses and things that we didn't necessarily want to do with a regular guest yet until we knew if it was going to work or not. Because sometimes you would try to put guests in a pose and it just didn't look good. A good example when I first started was what I jokingly call the prom pose now. And if you think of the old prom photos where you have the girl standing in front and the guy's got his arms around, and that was almost one of my standard poses at the beginning until I finally got one of the other cast members come up and say, hey, take the picture, and all right, here's how that looks. And oh yeah, that just looks boring. Let's do something different. So it was a good way to be able to take some pictures, experiment, and then to get a chance to evaluate if it was working or not. But it wasn't just photographers messing with each other. And, you know, I mean, we definitely did. But then if you got the characters involved, they would definitely mess with us as well. And, of course, the characters, they can recognize us because they're used to staring at us all day long with the cameras. And I had several times walking around the parks that the characters would see me and I would get an extra dose of character love. I had one time I was walking through Frontierland with my family on a day off, and we're just enjoying the day and not paying a whole lot of attention to what's going on around, and all of a sudden Brer Fox comes running out and half tackles me with this hug and hello, and it was like, whoa, where'd you come from? Well, Brer Fox recognized me and decided to come have a little bit of extra encounter. And so we got these really quick pictures. The photographer was on the ball, and these are ones I wish I could have bought but didn't have money. But yes, they got pictures of Brer Fox chasing after us. Chip and Dale were some of the worst. I was walking through Hollywood Studios one time. May have still been MGM Studios at the time. And as I'm walking through, one of them recognized me and comes running up from where they were getting ready to meet and greet guests and grabs my hat and takes off. And I'm like, wait a minute. And then the other chipmunk starts running interference. So we ended up with a few minutes here where the chipmunks were supposed to be heading over to meet with guests, and instead I'm chasing them all around the hat area trying to get my own hat back from the silly chipmunks. That's something that they might do in a limited form with guests, but they're not going to do it quite as dramatically as they did with me. If a character recognized a PhotoPass photographer and their family or friends coming in for a picture, They may actually pose for the picture with their back to the camera and completely blocking you. They would do it sometimes with guests where they would kind of briefly do it as a joke and then turn back around and then actually pose. But I had a couple times when the photographers on their day off were posing and they just wouldn't turn around. But characters would also do things with photographers that they might not otherwise. We had a Pluto that liked to play soccer, and so he may sometimes try something like that if there was a PhotoPass photographer in the room. Guests will sometimes see where the characters will start walking away and leaving with somebody else, but if it's an actual photographer, somebody they recognize on the day off, I have had characters that will actually take the photographer, especially if it's towards the end of a set, and they will just completely walk off stage. They won't act like they're leaving with them. They genuinely will leave with them and just take off and head off and... Well, sorry folks, I guess he'll be back in a few minutes. So we would have a lot of fun that way. Back when you had indoor locations like Toontown, as well, in between sets, you would definitely goof off and play around with each other because there's no guests around. It's how I got the group photo of me and the princesses. I can remember we had one time, it was a long rainy day and it had been slow, and we're shooting in Toontown. I'm in the princess room and we're bored because there's just not guests coming through. There's just not very many people there. Yeah, wouldn't it be nice to have a day at Disney like that again? And in the princess room, they've got all the princess songs playing, and I know you, I once with you. We started dancing around because we got nothing else to do, and I ended up dancing around with Aurora there, and the other photographers are dancing with the other princesses, and somebody snagged a picture. Because, hey, it's what you do. So, yes, I got this wonderful picture of me and Aurora dancing while I was working, and, yeah, my wife at the time was like, "Why are you dancing with the girls?" We were bored, hadn't it? But that was one of the fun things about the job, is that when you did come in on your day off, you would see people that you know, and you could joke around and mess around a little bit, knowing what the restrictions were, knowing what the guests were expecting, so it wouldn't interfere with the guest experience or take away from them. And in many cases, you know, with Chip and Dale chasing me around the hat, me chasing them to get my hat back, it actually accented and added to the guest experience because they got to see the chipmunks acting like the chipmunks, but not at their expense. So in that case, it was almost like I was Donald trying to chase them down. So we did have a lot of fun that way. It always made for an interesting experience. You never quite know what to expect from your coworkers, and you get to see them at other times. There were other times, too, it made for some magical moments. I will never forget when we took my nieces to see Tinkerbell and her friends. They got to experience them in a way that I don't think many people did, because my niece has autism, and they went out of their way because they knew who I was as well, and just made for a really cool experience. So not only do you get the joking and messing around, but you get some incredible magic as well. So have you had experiences like that where you came in to work on your day off and you had an experience that most customers or guests wouldn't? Did they joke around, mess around with you, especially at the theme park? I'd love to hear it. Share it in the stories below. If you've got other questions or want to know other ways that we mess with each other, or saw ways that other cast members messed around with each other, I'd love to hear those as well. Don't forget to share them in the comments. Thank you so much for watching, and God bless. When you come in on your time off, you're people who all of a sudden, nope. And all of a sudden, and again, with the family, they might have the phone ring in the middle of recording. No. They're just determined to block. Yes, it's Saturday. People aren't in offices on Saturday. Okay. If you got anything else you'd like to know or other ideas, please don't hesitate to share them as well. And well... If you'd like to know about my merchandise, fan pages, and more, be sure to check the description below. If you'd like to know whenever I've got a new video posted, well, make sure you hit that button right up there and subscribe. If you'd like to watch another one of my videos, I've got a great one for you right here. And if you'd like to be like these wonderful people here and support me financially on Patreon, well, make sure you check the link right there. There's even some extra perks for them. Thank you so much, and God bless.